patience. We under-anticipated the amount of time it would take to meet the fans, but Dante wanted to make sure that everybody got to meet him that was here, and we certainly wanted to make time available for our friends in the media. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you the co-conspirator of the brand new feature film, Hang Loose, which we can announce today to you, our press friends, will be distributed through streaming media December 2012. So with that, please welcome the co-star and the producer, Dante Basco.
Thank you so much for waiting. We had a long line down there, but we got through everybody. That's kind of cool. You know, I'm proud of that. Questions? Do we need this? We don't need this.
Microphone check.
It's a small room. I got a big voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
So was Hook the film that started you out?
Hook was definitely, you know, the thing where I'm always credited by being founded by Steven Spielberg, and I was 15, and definitely when you do a film of that nature, one of the big A-list, big-budget films, like the biggest film in town at the time, it definitely jumps off your career and really sets you up for the future, which is great. But in all honesty, in all reality, I started acting when I was 10. I came to LA from San Francisco when I was 10, and I was a working actor for those first 5 years of my life in films like Perfect Weapon and doing a lot of stuff on television. So it wasn't my first film, but it was my first really big kind of like introduction to Hollywood.
Yes. I want to ask you about the movie, the debut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask that now, okay, even though it came out a long time ago, it is still shown in a lot of places, mostly in universities, as part of the Asian American culture study.
Yes.
And knowing that, how do you feel about your accomplishment, or your involvement in debut?
I'm so proud of that film. At that time, I was probably 21. I don't know. It was like I was an adult in that film, and like I said, I've been acting since I was 10. And I'm Filipino American, and that was the first time actually I've ever got to play Filipino in a film, and it was a thing that I'm very proud of for myself and also for the community about doing that film. Now that I have my partners in my own production company, we are looking forward to doing a sequel in the future to that, because we need to we need to continue the evolution of that story, but also just Asian American cinema and telling our stories.
Yeah, and I also want you to know that the debut was part of the mandated curriculum at the Cal State Fullerton, where I was studying. That was part of my class.
Study me. I mean, I didn't go to college, so it's good to know that some stuff I've done is in college. Yes.
On that movie, what was it like working with Eddie Garcia? Because he's huge in the Philippines. And
Eddie Garcia is great. The irony is Eddie Garcia was his first time in America.
really?
Oh.
Yeah, that was the first time in America doing that film, and it kind of blew all of our minds. Like, you've never been to America? Like, you've never... And of course, the first time acting in America, and so working with a star of that stature in our home country was great. It just seemed like that was a perfect storm of what we were doing, Filipino American culture going on, and also the stars of the Filipino culture coming together for this this story. Which I think there's more of the story to tell. Yes.
Well, I noticed that in the video game industry, it's also kind of bigger, either as animation or film itself. Will you take an interest in doing voice acting for video games? Or
Yeah, I have done a few video games, some MMORPGs. I'm not a big gamer, but I'm learning as I go along. And there is an involvement that I have in a video game coming up. So I can't really talk about it right now, but there's things coming on. There's things going on within the video game world that I'm involved in. Yes.
What was it like working with Robin Williams, and can you recall any memorable moments from the Hook set?
Yes, Robin is amazing. He's, was definitely a mentor type in my life at that time, and just looked up to him. He's the kind of actor, he's obviously one of the greatest improv actors of all time. His energy, he kept the morale of the set going for the 8-month shoot. But, on the one-on-one time when we would just hang out in the trailers talking and just going over lines and whatnot, he's very soft-spoken and very, introspective. And one of my favorite films that I told him on the first day of meeting him is Dead Poets Society, in which one of the things that made me become a poet at a young age. And he loved that, and so we would talk about a lot of poets, and he'd expose me to so many great poets. We talked about, of course, all the older great poets, or or even like the ones like Bukowski and of course the Transcendentalist Poets. And on our last day of filming, he gave me a leather-bound book of Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman, and signed it to me. It's like one of those kind of special things, like we beyond Hook and whatnot, just that we shared poetry together.
You're a child actor at the time, so I'm kind of curious with me taking film production and production management. But what was it? I know their laws are a lot stricter with child actors.
Yeah. Well, there's unions. Our union kind of makes sure that the child labor laws are being adhered to, which is you have a shorter work day. Depending on your age, you can work a certain amount of hours, and you also have a certain amount of school.
And you have to have a teacher on
set
too.
And and I came up during the 80s and 90s, so most of the time all those rules were adhered to. But sometimes you get in certain sets, and we're all being paid to do the work, and we're all seen as adult actors to a certain degree. And a lot of times things happen where you're like, look, we just gotta get this movie done, and we all kind of pitch in, even the kids too, to get the project done.
So, what was it like transitioning from being actor to producer as well?
I'm still transitioning. It's still
Okay,
it's hard. The thing about it is, it's not hard. It comes to a point where my life where, I've been a part of so many great stories and been characters in so many other people's stories that there became a time in my life where I also want to be the part of myself or part of the team that gets to tell some stories, whether it be from the Asian American perspective or just a story in general. It's pretty fluid transition as far as I've always been a writer, so moving into writing is great. Hang Loose, our first film, I co-wrote the film with Kev Jumba and Benjamin Arthur, another one of our writers. So that's great, and then also being a part of a creative team as a producer to just help bring not only this film but also with the whole company Kinetic Films, where I really wanted to put together a company that will cater to an underrepresented community in the mainstream, which is the Asian American Pacific Islander community. And we have all these great films that come from overseas, whether it be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or all the films from Korea, the horror films from Japan, and they're great, but they don't necessarily tell or help the story of the Asian Americans that were born and raised here. And we're like, as great as those films are and as critical acclaim as that is, it doesn't really impact the pop culture in America from our perspective. And so my point of view was, let's create a company where we can tell these stories. I have a lot of friends that are like myself, working actors, and have a certain amount of celebrity status within the mainstream media that don't get to play the roles they want to play, and I'm interested in creating those scripts or getting those scripts and letting them play those roles, and not just be the villain or not just be the best friend, but also be the romantic lead in the film. And then at the same token, reaching out to our new the new generation, the Kev Jumbas, Ryan Higas, all these big YouTube kids that are generating so much stuff online, and helping to cultivate them helping to cultivate the next generation. AJ Raphael going, this is how we make movies. These are scripts. Let's just create product. Let's work with. Let's put me with Kev Jumba. Let's do a film together. And there's so much that we can learn from your generation, and there's so much our generation that your generation can learn from our generation. So it's just one of these things. If we can really make this happen, really find a self-sustainable model with Kinetic Films and be a part of the whole Asian American movement, which is happening right now. Yes, question?
Going off of that note, what do you, as an Asian American, or rather a non-Caucasian actor, what do you think is the reason why Hollywood fears seriously producing a work that focuses on an Asian American hero?
The thing about it is, for a lot of years we get a lot of conversations about it, and it's racism or it's this or that, and I don't really think it's that per se. What Hollywood is, quote unquote Hollywood is, it's a business, and so like any business, they're just going where the numbers are at. And because Asian America hasn't proven itself as a monetary, quantifiable product to sell to, they're not going to put big money behind it. That also leads our company to going, if we can show them for greater or lesser what the Asian American market does, then it becomes more of a market where they will cater to it more. At this point, Asian Americans, I was in a PR meeting a few years back for a film, and we were talking about promoting to the Asian American audience to a PR company, and they go, this is maybe 6-7 years back, and they go, well, we we don't promote to the Asian American audience. And you're like, what? This is an Asian American film. And they said, well, this is the deal. Asian America is, is quote unquote the model minority. They live in the neighborhoods they want to live in. As a broad stroke, they drive the cars they want to drive. Their kids go to the schools they want to go to. Whatever we sell to quote unquote white America, Caucasian America, mainstream America, Asian America is buying it. We already have Asian America. Why would we spend $1 extra when we're already getting their money? Which is, as a business standpoint, as a businessman, you go, well, I totally agree. Why would I spend an extra $1 for something that I'm already getting? So it doesn't behoove them to create that. It behooves our own community to create this for ourselves, and to we're a part of the American story. We're a part of this fabric of what America is, and it's on us to cultivate our own voice within what's going on. And it's not an anti what's going on in the mainstream. It's an inclusion of these are also stories. These are also characters that we can play, and it's really on us to do it for us. It's I think part of the mindset of a lot of us coming up when the debut was made, when a lot of films came out that year. I mean, Better Luck Tomorrow, Debut, Flip Side. A lot of Asian American films came out, and I think as a group of filmmakers at that time, we thought, oh, we're going to get co-opted by Hollywood. Hollywood's going to say how cool it is to be Asian American, and then they're just going to start making Asian American films. That didn't happen. And so that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is it's us making films for us, by us to a certain degree, and if the numbers show, and if it's not, it'll spread. It's like African American filmmaking. It's not Latino filmmaking. It's you do some stuff and you make it for the community. And if you do 4 or 5 films a year, if we did a film a year since debut, it was over a decade ago, we'd have 10 films. And we wouldn't be the only production company doing it. For 2 or 3 films, you have a half dozen films more, and out of those, 1 or 2 of those are going to be really, really good and maybe cross over. And beyond that, you'd also be able to have something for the Asian American audience to watch on a semi-regular basis. And I think that's part of why all these Asian American stars have blown up online, because that's where the kids of this generation can see their likeness. Questions? I know it's getting all political and deep.
Hey, it's
Yes,
fine.
Little Bo Peep.
I'm gonna ask something crazy then. What was your reaction in the Homesick panel where that moment between Hussey and Rubio?
That was crazy. It was just, the whole Homestuck world is already just this crazy, wild world. My whole adventure within this Homestuck fandom and starting to read it just as a fan myself and getting into it, it's been a crazy adventure. And then sharing it with tens of thousands of people online, live blogging as I go about it. Like I said on the panel, it's a very unique experience. And so I actually, by the time I got to that part in the piece, I totally forgot that I was in the story. You're like, oh, why am I reading this? It's just a crazy story. And then you pop up, and then, then I'm kissing Andrew Hussey, and it's like, what is going on? And again, there's a lot of things in the story that I don't quite get, but I get in some kind of strange level. I'm sure I'll sit down one day with Andrew and we can talk it out, and he'll explain to me. And I wonder how much he totally understands. He says in interviews like, yeah, some of the stuff I wrote earlier doesn't pertain to stuff I'm writing now. So it's just fun. It's just a great story. It's a great adventure.
Thank you.
Now, I'm sure this has been asked so many times, but whatever, I'll bite the bullet. Regarding Avatar: The Last Airbender series, and you were Zuko, obviously,
Yeah.
iconic character, and then now Legends of Korra, you came back as General Iroh for a
Yes.
couple of episodes. How does it feel coming back to the franchise where it really, I guess, made the Dante Basco's voice acting more iconic?
Yeah, it's great. I'm always, even before I came back, you'll always be a part of the Avatar: Last Airbender family. And when we did that show on Nickelodeon, the biggest thing Nickelodeon ever done was still SpongeBob, and that was Nickelodeon. And so when they did Avatar, even when we were doing it for the first season, we were like, this is so not Nickelodeon. Like, what are we doing? And to be a part of something that really impacted the industry, impacted a big company like Nickelodeon, which in turn impacted like Disney. I mean, it sent a ripple throughout the animation world, especially on the American side. It's it's one of those things that no one even figured it would last even more than a season. You're like reading the script, like Nickelodeon, this is never going to sell on Nickelodeon. This is crazy. And it became this phenomenon, like a full-out phenomenon. So being able to come back and just rejoin the family, Mike and Brian, and Andrew Romano, who directs them, and just being in the booth that we did all those first episodes, and it's just amazing. And to reprise a character where I get to play my grandson, the whole thing is amazing. And you know, me and Mako would do a lot of our stuff together, and Mako passed away during the last season of Avatar. So, you know, and Mako has played and Mako's the Asian American iconic actor from the 70s and 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to now.
I mostly know him from the Conan series.
And Conan series, and within the Asian American scene, he created East West Players, and he was nominated for an Oscar for Sand Pebbles, and just, you know, he's a part of the quote unquote great Asian American actors, and he helped create that. And so he passed away while we were filming, we were taping Avatar, and you know, he's played my uncle or my father several times in my career, and it's one of those, and we would talk about how special Avatar has become, and these relationships that me and him had in the project, and how beautiful, and for what it is for Hollywood, for Asian Americans. We had all these conversations before he passed, and you know, and then it made me really realize also, like, I'm a part of that lineage of that Asian American actors, and you know, as up till then, I never really thought of myself in that way. You're just another actor pushing your rock up the hill in Hollywood. And when someone passes of that nature, and you go, wow, hold on a second, I'm a part of that lineage of actors, and that gave me some of a responsibility to create kinetic films and be a part of that, and to really, in some way, continue what he did in theater. Let's do it in film. Let's really, you know, work with the next generation. And it's just a different responsibility as an adult actor in the industry now.
Let's liven this up a bit. Have you seen the a review someone did of the Hook movie called The Nostalgia Critic?
No. What is that?
He's
Was it crazy?
he said it was good, but it had bad points.
It did. I mean, it was not a perfect movie by any means, you know, and it was we tend to look at our stuff in the past. I mean, it became this cult classic. Even when it came out, although it made a lot of money, it didn't make the money that they wanted to make. It didn't have the critical acclaim that they wanted it at the time. Because, you know, when you're doing these films, like, all kinds of crazy stuff is talked about when you're on the set. But Rufio became this iconic character out of the film, which is amazing and something you don't really ever plan for. And then it also became this film for a generation. Like, for my generation, we would watch VHS, and we'd watch like Grease and like Mary Poppins and Sound of Music, like nonstop, because every time you got babysitted or something or rain, every day, it was like you would just watch Grease like over and over again. And so for the next generation that grew up in that time, I can't tell you how many kids I meet that are adults now that go, dude, I must have watched Hook on VHS or on DVD 1,000 times because it was that same experience. A handful of movies for every generation become that movie, and with every new generation coming up, there's like going to be that one of those films, probably like 1 of 5 films that kids will watch ad nauseum. And when you watch something that often, all those moments and characters become, and it transcends the quote unquote quality cinematically of a film, and it's more, it captures that time in your life and those ideas of adventure and pirates, and it's, you know, it's less about the perfect film and more about that meant so much to me at that time in my life.
That's why I'm a big fan of Spielberg's work and why I want to be a filmmaker myself.
Yeah, he's awesome, and you know, he hasn't done as many films in the last few years, but I just watched the War Horse film, and again, you see Spielberg directs in a way that probably no one can, because he's epic. Not many people can direct epically. First of all, no one can get a budget to direct epically, and no one has the weight to shoot this much of a room or a field and have a horse come in and have comedy, and it's a very unique thing. It's like someone who can make a pop song and someone who can can direct an orchestra, and it's not many directors even have the ability to do that anymore.
Allison and Paul, I just want to do a time check. How much time do we have left for this part?
Can we have a few more questions?
Probably room for two more
Two more
questions,
questions?
and then we'll break into very quick one-on-ones. I apologize, we have to truncate that as well, but we wanted to save room for you guys that wanted the one-on-one. So two more questions from this point, please.
Question?
Hi. Sorry, it's just like just holding camera.
okay.
So yeah, I grew up with Hook. It's an amazing movie, and God. So I was kind of wondering, what would if you ever have like this one time of a huge struggle that as an actor that you just couldn't push through?
Yeah, I think we all do as actors. It's a hard profession, and I've been in town 27 years, and I've been fortunate enough to be a working actor and to pay my bills and live the life that I live through acting, and that's an amazing thing. And I tell actors all the time coming to town that it's a hard business. So with that, it's less of a don't look at it as a business and don't look at it as a job. It's just a lifestyle, and either you buy into the lifestyle of the artist and you come and join the circus with us, and we go live that life, or you do the other thing, and it's neither one is better than the other. It's just it's an incredibly different lifestyle. Question is?
Thank you.
This is about a movie that no one else has brought up, and I figured I would, and I hope it's not too embarrassing. But you were in the American live-action adaptation of Fist of the North Star.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Oh.
Dude, that
A
was
lot of people
cool.
regarded this as being a very cheesy action movie, which it is a very cheesy
It
action
is.
movie. But what were your experiences on the set working on that, and were you familiar with the source material?
I was not at first. Of course, once I got, once they gave me the part, they gave me all the comic books I could read through and I can check out. And my memories of that, yeah, it's a cheesy, crazy film with Gary Daniels, and actually there's cool fight scenes and some really crazy effects that were going on, like these micro, low budget filming of this madness. But my biggest memory is two things. First of all, is I dyed my hair blonde, so I was like, I had blonde hair. That was like the first, and I actually did blonde again for another film years later. It's the first time I had blonde hair, and that was pretty cool. It was in the 90s, and I was like this kid with blonde hair. And then the second was with Chris Penn, who was a very good friend at that time, and had passed away recently. His son is half Filipino, and we had this good crazy connection because he's like, when my son saw you in the movie, it was like this big thing. The first time you ever saw a Filipino person on screen, and it's in Hook, and just hanging. The memory is, which is funny, is hanging out with him because it was the night we're filming. The night O.J. Simpson is taking off. He's getting chased during the chase, and we're on the set, and the whole thing shut down. And it's me and Chris like in his trailer, like watching this whole thing, and he's telling me, "Man, I think he's set up." Chris Penn's like, "I think he's set up, man. I got set up once, and this really feels like that."
Then one last question for this
One last
portion.
question, yes.
It's more so like a childhood wish, but like most people here, I grew up watching you play Rufio and Hook, but I also grew up watching Ernie Reyes Jr. as Sir
Yeah.
Ninjas.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you would ever want to do a collaboration with him.
Yeah, Ernie is my boy. I love Ernie. He's cool. And, Ernie was doing his thing before I got to Hollywood,
Yeah.
so I met him. Matter of fact, I met him for the first time at the premiere party for Hook. And we're still friends, and he's been in and out of the business, going back to the fighting world and coming back, and he's a father now, so things have changed for him, but I definitely would love to collaborate with him in the future, for sure. Ernie's a really good dude, and as far as a martial artist, he's the truth, for sure.